Hey everybody, welcome back to Every Horror Movie on Netflix. I'm Patrick, back here with Steven.
Hey.
And Chris.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you for asking.
It wasn't like that kind of question.
Oh, well, fuck you too. And we are also here today with our guest, first-time guest, Bill. Hi, Bill.
Howdy.
Hi, Bill.
Hi.
Bill gave us his go-ahead before the show to introduce him as our pop culture daddy.
Yeah.
Which, I've known you for a long time, Bill, and you've introduced me to a lot of the great pop culture shit in my life. And really, I'm just saying all this to give you an opening.
This is all my fault.
Yeah, to give you an opening to explain why the fuck you decided to come here today.
I was asked.
Yeah.
Somebody canceled, right?
Yeah.
I think.
Like a good vampire, he waited for the invitation.
Yes.
Ooh. Yeah.
So we watched, so I think our listeners, anybody who's been keeping up knows that we have these weekly spook nights for a while, and we're kind of doing it on and off. Bill finally attended one for Stuart Gordon's masterpiece From Beyond, right? So you've at least got some interest in the horror genre.
Well, of course.
Well, and Bill also contributed his Blu-ray of The Car to that movie night as well.
Yeah.
Which I feel like should explain a few things to people about your taste. But
that you're a pervert and you like a good automobile. Nice, clean machine to drive around town.
The old drive-in days, I'm old school.
Right.
I told you guys that night I saw The Car at one of Monroe's former drive-ins when I was very, very young.
You saw The Car in a car.
In a car, yes.
Meta.
Surrounded by other cars. Listening
Incredible.
to the cars.
Was that scary to you?
Listening to the cars. I had pretty much seen it all by then.
But this was just what you needed.
Ooh.
To get back into the horror genre.
How long is this? How long are we going to trade off on this?
But yeah, so I mean, we figured...
Let's go.
We figured that we would save, just one of the real gems of the Netflix horror catalog for our pop culture daddy.
That was my terms of engagement to do this, actually.
Yeah, you said I want nothing but the best.
I rejected how many? 49, 57, something
60.
like that.
How many episodes have we had now?
Too many.
Yeah, too many.
This is our
He's rejected our invitation too many times.
This is our last one.
Gimme Paul W.S. or I'm not doing it.
I called you up. I said, we're doing Resident Evil Afterlife. Please, Bill, will you finally come on the show? Please say yes. And you're like, I'm in.
I said, only if somebody tells me what the W.S. stands for.
Oh, God.
Don't know.
Did anybody do the research on that?
Will Smith.
Does Milla even know?
Wesley Stace.
Wesley Snipes?
Widescreen.
Paul Widescreen.
Wide stance, Anderson.
Oh, man.
Oh, my God. Brian Tracking Shot De Palma. What if every famous director had like a nickname that was like part of like, it was like a guild requirement that they included on screen?
Like baseball players.
Well, folks, you may have figured it out by now, but yes, we watched Resident Evil Afterlife this week.
Yeah. Who picked it?
I picked it. I will take responsibility for that. And primarily I picked it because I have a belief in continuing to watch the shitty stuff on Netflix as well as the good stuff. You know, we have the opportunity now to pick whatever movie we want, and I like to make sure that we're still digging into some of the more off the beaten path and the getting into the Drek a little more. And this one in particular interested me because I've been playing Resident Evil 4 for the last few months at Chris's behest.
Yep.
I actually finished it just last night.
Yep.
Fun times, good times. Has absolutely fucking nothing to do with this movie, so really completely irrelevant.
No. I have two things to disclose. One is, as you can tell, I'm getting over an illness, so my voice is terrible.
Is it T-virus?
It might be. It might be the T-virus. Actually, yes.
That was perfectly... Like, I took a sip of water, and you just perfectly timed that. I almost just spit took on Mike.
So pretty soon you're going to be indestructible and have a seemingly unending number of clones.
I'm going to give myself more and more T-virus until I become something new entirely.
All right. Well, great. I'm glad to hear yours.
Here's my
What's your second thing to say about this?
My second thing to disclose is I told you last time that I had only seen the first Resident Evil movie, but I was curious to see the others. So not only did I watch Resident Evil Afterlife, but I watched the other two movies that I had not seen. Since
last episode.
Yeah, so I watched Resident Evil Apocalypse, which is Resident Evil 2. I watched Resident Evil Extinction, which was Resident Evil 3, and now this one.
Wait, okay,
doing the homework.
Can I say that every subtitle of a Resident Evil movie I've heard of is redundant?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, glad that I could get that out there.
Once you have the T-virus annihilate all life on Earth, which happens in between the second and third movie, there's only so much you can iterate on.
Extinction,
the apocalypse, afterlife, annihilation, retribution, whatever.
So, and I think this is a good moment to explain just how much context we have on this fucking franchise. So you've actually seen all the preceding movies, Chris. Steven, you said you saw the first one, I think, in theaters?
I saw the first one in theaters, yeah.
I have never seen any of them other than this one. And Bill?
I think I saw the first one in the theater.
Yeah.
All I remember is like a laser trap in the first one.
Yes.
That's the only scene I recall.
Yes, which Patrick knows because that was referenced in Resident Evil 4.
Okay.
The laser hallway.
Or the movie, I assume, referenced Resident Evil 4.
I think the movie came first.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Huh, interesting.
But yeah, do we have familiarity with the games at the table? Because I'm more or less familiar with the games, not to a high degree, but
have you played other ones besides 4?
I've played most of Resident Evil 1. I had a roommate who played Resident Evil 2, and I watched most of it. I've played 4, I've played 5. That's about it. But I'm familiar with the tropes and the characters and the scenarios from the games.
I tried to play 2. I remember when it came out and like my gamer friends were like, this is the most terrifying thing ever. And I couldn't figure out the mechanics of it.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't get past the first scene.
Very hard to control.
Yeah, because it's like third person static camera from what I remember. So like you have to, and I don't have any sense of like spatial reasoning whatsoever. So I was set up to fail.
The environments were pre-rendered for the early games. So you'd have a really good looking police station or something, but it would be a fixed camera, and you could use your controls to like turn your character and move your character forward.
Yeah.
But that was like, you go left, you don't go left on the screen. You turn left relative to where the character is looking. And so it's very hard to control. But it also adds to the like survival horror element. But also the horror comes from not being scared that you can't run away because you can't control the damn game. So, Bill, did you ever play?
The camera work in this movie is an homage to the game you were
and
just
sometimes
describing.
they do this. Sometimes they have the fixed camera angles in these Resident Evil movies that kind of throw back to that.
Do you think that's on purpose?
In the earlier movies, it's certainly on purpose in a couple occasions. But
wow, interesting.
Did you ever play the games, Bill?
No.
No. Okay.
Well, great. Now that we have that, everyone's context for the movie covered, perfect juncture for me to say, as someone who's never watched any of the movies, I feel like this was perfect. Like I didn't feel like I had missed anything. Like there was so much. I mean, probably too much exposition if you have seen the previous movies. But as someone who had no context for it, I felt like I had missed nothing.
Okay, so my big curiosity.
I was confused by nothing.
I was clearly, obviously confused by nothing because I had watched the movies. But when this movie opened with all the Alice clones, I was like, I do not know if anyone's going to know what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
If they're uninitiated. So how did you read that?
I didn't care.
I just accepted it.
That's how I got through
So,
it.
and I mean, I guess we should set up the plot. So there's an underground headquarters for the Umbrella Corporation in Tokyo.
Yep.
Alice, played by Milla
Jovovich.
Jovovich. We put a lot of work into researching how to pronounce this name before the
Milla
episode. Jovovich.
Okay.
Shows up. Her character's name is Alice. And she fucking lays waste to the Umbrella Corporation's headquarters with, all of a sudden, a bunch of clones of hers. And that, okay, yes, granted, that was not explained, but I just rolled with it. I was like, okay, fine, fucking, she has clones.
Why not?
Yeah, why not? Exactly. This was maybe my favorite part of the movie, this opening sequence, which kind of plays like a music video.
Or a video game.
Or a video game, yeah, exactly. It's just like 15 minutes of insane-ass carnage.
I was laughing out loud the entire time.
I was chuckling as well.
Because it's just so fucking insanely over the top and terribly rendered. Clearly, like, part of the generation of early Matrix knockoffs.
Yes.
Sub Matrix.
Yeah. One thing I wish I had known, I just want to get this out of the way before I started the film, I didn't know until afterward that it was shot in 3D.
Oh, yeah.
Using a camera technique that James Cameron developed for Avatar.
Can't say he did nothing for cinema.
Speaking of
I've
daddy.
still yet to figure out where James Cameron and cinema meet ways, but anyway.
Oh, shots fired.
If only there were Avatar sequels to look forward to.
If only.
If only there was a way that one could earnestly look forward to them. They'll be here eventually.
I'm excited. I'm unironically excited for anything James Cameron does. So screw you guys. So here's the deal with the clones, and this is why I did not like.
Explain this to us.
Is why I did not like the opening of this movie. In Resident Evil Extinction,
Which is 3.
yes. So basically, in the first 2 Resident Evil movies, Alice gets captured in each of the movies and experimented on by the Umbrella Corporation and given different amounts of T-virus, and they're trying to basically make super soldiers, biological weapons, and all that stuff.
And she starts as an experiment, right? In the first
I think
movie?
that's kind of left ambiguous.
Oh, okay.
I think she's... my memory is she's just kind of security personnel or something, or a researcher. But she wakes up with amnesia in the first movie, so... All right, by the way, guys, side note, Resident Evil Apocalypse, number 2, one of the most entertaining action movies I've ever seen in my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's on HBO, so you can stream it off HBO
I
if
don't
you
think
want
I
to.
will, actually.
All right. Well,
I'm curious.
I'll tell you about it later because it's amazing.
No, like right now, give us the fucking like 15-second or 30-second elevator pitch for Resident Evil, whatever the fuck it's called, too.
Resident Evil Apocalypse. It's basically just a zombie movie that takes place in a city with a population that's like still on its way out. So it's basically the most conventional zombie movie of the franchise. That's not that compelling in itself, but the way the action is and the kind of tongue-in-cheekness of it and the humor that's in it, and there's a subplot, and the ultimate villain of the movie, it has such a campy emotional resonance that I loved it.
All right. I'm curious.
Anyway.
I have HBO. I'll watch that shit.
Yeah, cool.
All right, anyways, explain the fucking clones to us.
Extinction, though, wasn't that good. In Extinction, the Umbrella Corporation has, since they recaptured Alice in the second movie, they've cloned her dozens and dozens and hundreds of times. And they are running the new Alice clones through like a proving ground, and they're just getting killed by zombies and killed by traps over and over and over again. And so at the end, Alice and her friends arrive at the Umbrella headquarters in the desert in the U.S., and she sees like all the discarded corpses of herself like in a trench in like a mass grave. It's a very good image, very good moment. And then she goes down and like basically at the end she frees all her clones, and she's going to go to the Umbrella Corporation in Tokyo and fuck them all up with her clones.
Sick.
And
then it happens.
But what bothered me was that she had some compassion for her clones in that movie, and then to just have her use them as cannon fodder, and then they all get blown up, and she's completely unaffected by it.
Didn't honor the legacy of Resident Evil
Extinction. No.
Extinction.
Yeah, so I did not like that. But it's also a good way, because the problem is Alice had gotten to the point where she was too OP. She could do anything. She had, not only did she have incredible physical powers, but she even had psychic powers in Resident Evil Extinction.
Psychic powers.
And so you can't have 200 protagonists who are unstoppable in a movie. So you got to nuke them all. You got to give Alice the shot that makes her human again. And now there's, better stakes. I wish she had been more badass, though. I wish they still kept. But she's still bad. She's always going to be badass. And that's the premise of the whole franchise, and that's why it's a great franchise. We got balls to the wall action, zombies, heads exploding, just fronted by the most badass woman you've ever seen in the world.
I feel like we have a bona fide like Resident Evil franchise fan over here.
I plan to watch the rest of them. I don't
Which
think
is
I'll
what,
rewatch. But
2 more?
I think
after
there's
this?
2 more,
The
maybe
last
3
one
more.
came out in 2017.
Yeah, really, surprisingly recently. I think of this as like an older franchise, but it just wrapped up.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's this badass prologue. Alice fucking wastes the Umbrella Corporation headquarters. Umbrella Corporation has been experimenting on people with this T-virus thing that's turned, I guess, the world population into zombies. I guess that's the backstory. It was enough for me. Wesker, the evil head of the corporation, shoots her up with a thing on his way out that takes the T-virus out of her so she doesn't have her special powers anymore. That's the setup for the movie. Am I right?
Yeah. Is it shortly thereafter that they crash the plane into the mountain?
Yeah,
Yes.
immediately after.
How, if she's human now, how does she survive that?
Great question.
Because some of the T virus was still in her system. It was decaying the T virus inside her when she got the shot, but that was only 10 seconds before she. I don't know.
Because she just
I mean,
been
I
really
also-
out in the wreckage. I mean, they hit this mountain. How they just hit a mountain, I don't know. It seems like even if there's nobody piloting it, it seems like it could be pretty easy to avoid just like by accident. But
Yeah.
they crash into it at like 5,000 miles an hour, and she just gets right up out of it.
But you don't understand.
It's
This
no
is
big deal.
this plane was designed by the most sophisticated weapons program.
She flies through the windshield of it. Anyway,
I mean,
I'm picking nits here.
I also don't understand how this virus that causes most people to turn into zombies caused this one woman to turn into a superhuman. But
Neither does anybody. Neither does the Umbrella Corporation. That's why they keep abducting her to study on her further,
Okay,
and they're
that's
trying to
the
replicate
idea.
it. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. I mean, the T-virus started off as they were trying to make I don't know if it started off as a bioweapon or if they were trying to make a super soldier. One of the two.
I was going to ask, so they fucked up and they ended up making
But there was an
zombies
accident.
instead.
There was an
Okay.
accident. They didn't mean to turn the whole world population into zombies. Yeah.
Well, anyways, Alice sets out in search of this place called Acadia, which is supposed to be the safe zone, the final like stronghold for humanity, which is some undisclosed location. Well, it's been disclosed to some people, but it's a secret location on the Canadian coast somewhere. We get the idea. She pilots a biplane out there. She gives us lots of very useful exposition, speaking to herself on a video recording for God knows who on the way there. For us. For me.
For
and
you.
it was very
It's
useful.
this movie is a video game. It is not a video game adaptation. It's a video game, except you don't have a controller.
Well, I would... yes, I would compare it to a comic book. It feels like I picked this comic book up off the fucking spinner rack at the store. I don't need any foreknowledge of the story. It's all in there, and it's not necessarily great storytelling, but it's like an entertaining little fucking IV drip. It's a shot of entertainment to me, you know. It just gave me that vibe of like an old school comic book. Like they're going to explain everything to you in case you didn't happen to get the last issue.
Well, I mean, not just as far as like the exposition, the way that story details are delivered, but in the action as well. Like it felt like I was just watching someone play a video game for 90 minutes.
Yeah. Well, this movie came out shortly after Resident Evil 5 came out. And
Okay.
I did play Resident Evil 5. I remember none of it. But apparently there are actual lines of dialogue and action scenes taken out of Resident Evil 5, adapted very literally into this movie.
The brother and sister are the main characters in the video games, right? Or some of the video games?
Some of the games, yeah.
Alice,
Yes.
Is Alice in the video
No,
games?
Alice
is a new
total.
character, and
Okay.
the original movie was designed to have nothing in common with the games, other than the concept.
I guess it's similar to the Final Fantasy movie as well, right?
I haven't seen that.
You haven't seen that? Okay.
Well, in the games shift protagonists a lot from what
Right.
I've heard. Like,
Right.
I mean, there are some shared protagonists among the games, but for the most part, like it's somebody new every game.
You're not wrong, but I mean, after I think Resident Evil 4, I think after Resident Evil 2 or 3, they kind of stick with the same core cast, but
Yeah.
they rotate in. Like the guy who's in Resident Evil 4, Leon is also in Resident Evil 2. Chris Redfield,
The
I
movie,
think. Yeah,
or the game?
The game.
Yeah.
We're talking about games here.
Yeah.
Chris Redfield, who appears in this movie, I think is the protagonist of Resident Evil 1 and comes back in Resident Evil 5. And
I mean,
things like that.
Long story short, having played Resident Evil 4, I did not recognize any characters in this movie.
Right.
Like, nothing.
Right. And really, the characters that are in the movie are there kind of as Easter eggs for people who've played the games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways,
That's not important.
we get to Acadia. There's nothing fucking there.
Nothing there but great cinematography.
Yeah? Would you describe that as great cinematography?
Oh, I would. Foggy weather, rainy weather, antique planes lined up as far as the eye can see with dew on them. Bright red plane. Milla Jovovich coming out with like a bomber jacket, looking around,
Amelia
like
Earhart.
thigh high, like wool stockings.
You know,
since you're mentioning the stockings, we should talk about the costumes in this movie.
I'm starting to smell an early View It with Prejudice over here, and I can't wait till we get to the review.
I think Chris needs a moment.
Steven, costumes.
Briefly, costumes in this movie by Denise Cronenberg, David Cronenberg's
What? I
sister.
wondered about
yeah.
that.
Oh, yeah, I guess I did notice that name in the credits.
Yeah, and I think this movie is like partially funded by the Canadian government.
Oh, that would
which
make
would
sense.
make total sense, yeah. Anyway, just a little bit of trivia.
The costume is not really of note other than the fact that they're made by David Cronenberg's wife. But
they're pretty striking. I mean, Jovovich's costume is pretty iconic, I would say, even at this point. Right?
She wears a lot of different costumes in the movies. She looks like a badass in all of them.
Okay.
And you know what? I've seen... What have I seen her in? She's in fucking Dazed and Confused, isn't she?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't even know what else I've seen her in. This is certainly the first...
Fifth Element.
Fifth Element.
Yeah.
This is the first, like, leading role I feel like I've seen her in. And she's great.
She's in Run Lola Run.
No, she's great. You know,
No?
That's not her.
Oh, okay. Whoops.
That's not her.
I haven't...
Different woman with a European name. Different badass
Maybe
with a
it's
European
the
name.
red hair threw me off.
Yeah.
I'm just remembering the cover of it, in which her face is blurry. So,
Yeah.
all right, whatever. Let's move on.
yeah, she's a really good actress in these movies. I'm not going to say she's a very good actress full stop, but because I don't know, but she certainly has more than enough range to do what she needs to do in these movies, which is usually be badass, be angry, be upset at times, be worried, be funny, deliver some one-liners now and then.
Oh my god, her
she's great.
one-liners are so lame in this.
In this one, they were, yeah.
I don't know if I don't think the problem is her delivery. It's just like garbage. Like, you wouldn't treat a woman that way.
That was
would you?
bad.
Or
That
like,
was bad.
I think she says that's no way to treat a woman twice.
Yeah.
In this.
I don't even remember that now.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Written and directed by Paul W.S., I
And
believe.
it shows.
Paul
So,
Wide stands
Whoever
Anderson.
wins, we lose.
Let's talk about Paul W.S.
Because
Because
her husband, isn't it?
Yeah.
and that's one of the reasons I love this franchise. I mean, I'll say I love this franchise. I guess I do now. I guess this is my identity.
I love that you love it.
Oh my god.
But I mean, you know, I always talk about how I am interfacing with the filmmakers and stuff when I make this.
Yeah.
And so the first Resident Evil movie, it's a fun romp. It's fine. James Cameron, speaking of James Cameron, says it's his like go-to guilty pleasure movie.
Really?
The original Resident Evil movie.
Wow.
And I like it. It's fun. It's fine. Directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, who, you know, doesn't have a great track record, but he also made Event Horizon, which is one of my favorite horror movies. So he's good. But here we got a guy, and really, this is the dream. He took a break from directing for 2 and 3 for Resident Evil, but he still produced, and then this marks his return, and he did the rest of the series. But I'm like, isn't this the dream to make a living making these shitty like zombie action movies, and then like you happen...
Are you a fan of the franchise or not? Shit or get off the...
And you know, you happen to like fall in
He's
love.
a fan. He's definitely a fan.
But they're shitty.
Yeah. Yeah. But you happen to fall in love with the star of the movies, and then you just spend the next like 20 years of your life just making action movies with Bae, who you marry, and also happens to be literally the most beautiful woman in the world. Isn't that everyone's dream?
It's like John Cassavetes and Gina Rowlands, except I don't know if it's more or less depressing.
Dude, I love it. I love this interpretation.
Yeah,
I'm fully
it's a beautiful
invested.
Did they meet on Resident Evil?
I'm pretty sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Where
I want
dreams come true.
I want a movie about their story.
Yeah.
I want the Paul and Milla story.
Right. And it's like, and now it's like, yeah, we're just going to make movies together, and you're going to be a badass, and that's going to be it. And like,
I mean,
how
I
many
do
other...
like that he's putting her on a pedestal and like
Yeah.
making, and I do think that I think these movies are terrible, the ones I've seen, including this one. Sorry, spoiler alert. But I do appreciate that, like, there are very few, like, female-led action series.
Right.
This is one of them. I mean, that's cool on its own.
I mean, I can't even think of another one except for, like, Tomb Raider, which is also video game based.
Paul Wife Stars Anderson. That's what it stands for. Yeah. So anyways, Acadia, she picks up this woman who... What's this woman's
Claire
name?
Redfield.
Oh, that's Claire. That's right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah,
Chris's sister.
Claire has a fucking robotic spider on her chest that's making her go fucking nuts and attack.
It's from Resident Evil 5, the game, the spider.
And attack Alice. We rip the spider off her chest, and we go down to L.A. in search of Acadia.
Yeah.
Or shall we call it L.A.?
Or going down the coast in search of survivors, and basically they find survivors holed up at an old prison and land the plane on the roof of the prison in a daring stunt.
Impressive.
And
was that because I was confused? Is it because like the roof is not long enough to be a proper runway? And
right.
They have to pull the big wire out. Okay.
Yeah.
Impressive that Milla was able to land that plane on that green screen herself.
And so that's basically the premise of the movie. We have Milla and several other survivors holding out in a prison in L.A. surrounded by millions of zombies. And how are they going to get out? And does Acadia exist? And can they find other survivors and make our country whole again?
Acadia seems to be dead as fuck, but it's still broadcasting. There's still a transmission that's being heard occasionally.
And actually, well, I mean, it's not long after they get there that we realize Acadia is actually a ship, and it's off of L.A. So
that's spoiler room, bro.
No, it's not.
I'm just kidding.
That's as soon as they get to the prison, they find this out. So the mission, the premise of the movie is how are we going to get out of the prison with all our survivors, escape the zombies, make it to the coast, get on the ship, find other survivors.
It's the most fucking generic zombie movie plot ever. Every character fits into a very specific archetype.
Yep.
Not only would I rather be playing this than watching it, I'd rather be playing The Last of Us.
Well, of course.
Well, I mean, I would rather play The Last of Us than like most media I could consume.
Just like
That's not saying much.
As soon as like things finally settled into what this movie is and we got to the prison, I was fucking checked out for almost the duration of the movie.
I mean,
good little like gory moments and weird creatures and stuff, but man, like what a by the numbers boilerplate plot we have here.
I do feel like the best stuff has already happened by the time you get to the prison, but I was not checked out. I was still entertained.
I could comment on the 6'2" basketball superstar who's featured on the Watch billboard.
Wait, what?
Yeah, who was that? Like what?
Chris said he's a character from earlier in the picture, the basketball guy who was on the billboard.
Yeah.
Who was disappointed that she didn't recognize him.
Well, like a lot of these people in the prison are like Hollywood types, you know.
I'm
like
a producer.
Yeah.
I'm the producer. The Tom Savini looking guy.
Yes. Oh my God, I thought the same thing.
I don't know. Why didn't they get Tom Savini? So
that was interesting because I think Anderson produced this movie and there was a lot. You definitely got the sense that Anderson was pissed off by producers of previous installments in the franchise and decided to Shyamalan style create a very, very thinly veiled representation of people who have pissed him off in real life.
Thinly veiled and thinly written and actually even thinly acted.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's a zombie movie. I've seen better, I've seen worse.
Yeah.
Sure.
There's a producer, there's the producer's assistant, there's a washed up actor. There's a what other archetypes do we have in the prison?
They give you enough where you don't know these characters, but you know a couple things about them, and you can keep them straight, and that's enough.
Yeah, one thing I can say about this movie I really liked is that I could keep the characters straight. Whether or not I cared about them, I knew who they were and what they represented.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes you're just looking for a thrill ride, Steven. You're not looking for deep characterization. You're just looking, to see some fucking crazy-ass shit happen.
If I'm looking for that, I need to look elsewhere.
Sometimes you just want to see the most beautiful woman in the world holding a shotgun in each hand.
In your movie that you're directing.
Blowing the heads off of things.
Chris, do you think Milla Jovovich is beautiful?
Yes.
What do you think of her voice? I would watch this with my
Better than my voice
no,
right now.
I actually think it's quite similar. I watched this with my boyfriend, and he said multiple times. And so he's from Indonesia, and apparently these movies were big there because there aren't a lot of cultural exports from the U.S. that make it there. So he's seen this whole series.
In Indonesia, the guy who played the 6'2" basketball star actually is a basketball star.
All right. Well, anyway, he found her voice to be very sexy, and I was thinking like it kind of sounds like she has strep throat or something.
I like that.
Like it?
Listen, this isn't a show about me and what I like. Okay.
I mean, in a way, it is kind of a show about what the three of us like.
I feel like this is turning into Howard Stern
Yeah,
or
this
something.
isn't-
Y'all are over here like jerking off about Milla
This isn't-
Jovovich's voice.
This isn't Howard Stern.
No, I just really, I thought her voice was very striking. I wondered if it struck anyone else. That's the only reason I brought it up.
Before we were trying to figure out how her name was pronounced, and one of the first videos that comes up is a Letterman interview from like 90 something, and Letterman's like, so we'd like to bring out tonight the very beautiful and talented actress Milla Jovovich, and I was like, oh my god, that's so cringy.
Adele
and,
Well, that's-
and
welcome-
y'all over here like, oh Milla,
All I did was ask if you thought her voice was interesting because I thought it did not like seem to match her appearance, and I thought it was kind of striking.
no,
I didn't expect her to have such like a deep, gravelly voice.
I like
it's
it.
a striking voice,
And it works for an action character. By the way, that David Letterman intro, that's like every Craig Ferguson intro ever.
Really?
Yeah, it's so
I
good.
like
And
it.
Are
probably
you
most
talking
late.
shit on Craig Ferguson? Are you calling Craig Ferguson a lech on this show?
I didn't say that.
Oh, boy.
I'm not going to.
All right.
But I'm glad he's not doing late night TV anymore.
Oh, okay. We'll settle that after the show.
Out of court.
Craig Ferguson is like my favorite late night host.
I mean, I feel like that's every late night
Why are we
introduction
doing this?
of an actress pre like 2000.
And you know what?
16, 19, yes.
It's fair game. Listen, it's fair game when you're talking about someone whose primary career is being a fucking supermodel. You're allowed to say they look nice. Okay?
It's just locker room talk. It's just locker room talk.
Talking about a literal supermodel, all right? This isn't like we brought fucking Greta Thunberg on the show and said she was sexy.
Wow. So many ways I want to go with that. I'm not
Climate
going
just
anywhere.
changed in here.
Yeah. So when is Resident Evil global warming coming out?
We're living.
No, we've had the final
living
chapter.
it.
The most recent one was the final chapter. It's there are no more unless Chris directs
How
one.
many times has Phil Collins said it's the last tour? We're going to get another sequel.
Well, we're actually going to have to release the T-virus to stop global warming.
Thanos over here.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, listen.
All right, so fucking yeah, like Jesus, please. Oh my God, where are we? What's going on?
It's the prison.
Somebody right the ship here. Somebody.
Starting to get picked off one by one.
Yes. Thank you,
Predictably,
Bill.
the cannon fodder.
Yes.
Sometimes unpredictably. I mean, sometimes it happens quick.
There are so many jump scares in this prison that are almost identical. There's a zombie creature that has like 4 sort of like winged looking tentacles that come out of its face. And I swear to God, that thing comes out of nowhere at least 5 times.
Is it always the same one?
It's not the same one, but it's the same like design
okay.
of creature.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about though?
But isn't that the mutation though?
That's like the prototypical zombie in this franchise,
Yeah.
isn't
Isn't they
it?
all
Like the
do
thing
that?
with the
they're-
4.
Yeah.
They all have that like a quiet place gene.
No. I don't know. There's a variety of creatures in the franchise.
But that one design like shows up as a jump scare so many
Yeah.
times in this that I started kind of laughing after a while. I thought it was amusing.
Yeah. But I mean, there's some like there's the part where they go into the flooded section.
Yeah.
And there's the girl who goes with them, and she's like, "I'll go with you. I'm like swimming champion."
swimmer.
Yeah, great. And so it's like, "Oh, that's cool." And they
The
go
washed-up
back.
actress.
And then as soon as they surface, she gets killed by a zombie, and she's gone, just like
Murked.
that.
Never to return.
Bye.
Never to return. Did not expect that.
Washed up in more ways than one.
I sort of liked that swimming sequence because I don't know. It's probably just my own bullshit because I'm not good at swimming, and I was like, "Fuck! how would I do that in real life? Like, how would I know my halfway point? Like,
would
when
die.
would I turn?
You would
I would
die.
probably die.
You would die.
No, I literally, while I was watching the movie, after that sequence, I like held my breath because I was like, how long could I actually like hold out? It was not long.
The movie to watch about that is James Cameron's The Abyss.
Who?
James Cameron's The Abyss.
Hey, did you know, Chris, that The Abyss is streaming in HD on HBO right now? Like a new scan.
Is it?
Yeah.
That means it can't be far off before we get it on Blue.
I think True Lies is too, but you probably care about that a little bit less.
Yeah, I do need to watch True Lies again, though. It's been I haven't watched that one as an adult.
I like that one.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, the Abyss, though, plenty of harrowing scenes of breath holding and swimming. And something they do in the Abyss, which you can do in real life, is to hyperventilate before you go for your swim, which will allow you to, since you'll be over ventilated or over oxygenated, it allows you to swim for longer. The downside is, listeners, don't do it. You don't get the, like, I need to breathe sensation. You just black out and die.
Well, wasn't there a lot of that happening on the set of The Abyss? Like, I heard James Cameron pushed everyone really
probably.
fucking hard on
Yeah.
that.
Probably. But I mean, so if you ever need to swim from point A to point B, or you're going to die, hyperventilate before you do it.
Okay.
Or watch,
I mean,
or watch The
I'll
Abyss.
probably be
you go.
hyperventilated from the chase that the zombie is giving me before I have to go in the
maybe.
water. So
Maybe.
think
I
it's
always
just kind of a
love-
natural occurrence.
I always love when we have an opportunity to do dive facts with Chris.
Well, that went on for so long. They were holding their breath for so long in that sequence.
Oh
and
my
it
god, I don't
seemed-
even remember this.
But they all stop in the same place. Like all three of the people who dive, they stop in the same place, and then they
like, look
shine their
around,
light,
yeah.
and then they move on again. If you were following people, wouldn't you just kind of go along with them? I mean,
One would
Probably.
think. One would think.
But I was wondering if maybe it was like supposed to be like a scuba sequence or something because of the length of time that they were down there, or they were going to like CGI something in and they didn't, because it seems like they were down there for way longer than they should have been.
The more I'm thinking about this stretch of the movie, the more I'm realizing that this is where I really checked out. Because there's just kind of like business with them like trying to figure out how to get out of the prison, and people like being sort of picked off. And
What about the super zombie though?
Yeah.
The big
that was
guy.
dope with
Yeah.
the fucking hammer. That's from the games,
the
right?
Meat, the
Yeah.
meat tenderizer.
He looked
Yeah.
like something out of a Beksinski painting. He was horrifying.
I don't know who
I
that
love
is, but I
that.
believe
Oh,
you.
look him up. He's like even more horrifying than Giger.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, he's tall. He's like fucking, 10, 12 feet tall, something like that. And he's carrying this, just dragging behind him this giant axe / meat tenderizer, as Bill said. And that's a character from the games, right, Chris?
Yeah, I haven't played it, but I think it's a boss in one of the games, like Resident Evil 3 or something.
Yeah.
When he's
I mean, he
swinging
was
that
pretty
fucking
dope.
hammer around. Yeah, okay, this is one reason I wished I had known this movie was in 3D before I saw it. Because even without the benefit of 3D glasses, like I was like wincing every time the hammer came at the screen. That was the one sequence, like in the fucking like locker room or whatever, that actually worked for me as an action sequence. It made me feel a little bit of terror.
How'd you feel about the
shit.
paddle ball?
All right, listen, House of Wax.
How about the popping eye from Friday the 13th 3D?
Oh my god! How about
Oh my God.
the juggling balls that come up into your face? Very scary.
What
in
about
Friday the 13th
when
Part
the-
Still
3?
talking about movies?
What about when the reverse bear trap goes off on Jigsaw's wife in Saw 3D?
Horrifying.
Yeah. It flies right at you in the theater.
Anyways, the fucking like producer steals the plane. We get to the boat, and what else is there to talk about? I was stoked on this, and I'm all of a sudden realizing that I lost gas. I ran out of gas like halfway through this
Well,
movie.
look, it doesn't
and I feel
matter-
like I'm running out of gas in the discussion.
It doesn't
now that
matter
I'm
what
talking
happened.
about it.
We'll go to the spoiler room in a minute, but I mean that's your movie, right? You got zombie mayhem and action. It's been done before, sure. Has it been done with Milla Jovovich shooting people with a shotgun loaded with quarters for some reason?
I thought that was like a Super Mario Brothers
was a good
thing,
video
like,
game callback,
like coins when they
Yeah.
like Scott Pilgrim when
Yeah.
they killed something like cha-ching.
She's seemingly okay. One thing I want to mention that does not need to be saved for the spoiler room. Another reason this film is very video game like is that no one ever reloads their weapons. They're just firing constantly. It feels like there are no stakes. There's never a moment where I worry that if a character has a gun, they're going to die.
Well, of
so many
Alice,
characters die.
Of Alice, that's true. But that's what I like about Alice, and what I like about watching these movies is because it's like, you know what? She's gonna be fine. She's gonna just fuck everything up. And in this day and age, it's nice to have a force of good that just can fuck everything up.
People do die, but it doesn't feel like there are any stakes, and I don't care if any of the other characters survive anyway, because I know she's gonna live, and this is her story.
Right.
But it's funny in these scenes where, like, it was funny to me anyway, when there's like 1,000 zombies coming at this group of people, and they're firing at them, that they're just like firing endlessly, like kids playing with toy guns.
Well,
like,
but I mean, even Alice, when she's like, so like in that scene where she jumps off the roof and then runs through the zombies to get back into like the garage, she's firing like handguns.
She always has two guns.
But then she runs out of ammo and she throws them away and pulls the shotguns off her back dramatically. There are a lot of scenes of people throwing and catching and shooting guns in slow-mo in this, and it's great. I love it, honestly.
In 3D.
In 3D, yeah.
She says,
and then she opens fire with the shotgun.
Remember the scene where they do all the swimming to get to the armory, and they find all the guns, and then they never take any of the guns.
Yeah, they just grab a couple.
Oh man, there's so many fucking guns in there.
How about the bungee jump off the roof after putting the grenades or whatever, and the entire rooftop full of zombies goes up?
Yeah, this movie completely plagiarized several movies. And I forget. I mean, that one was Die Hard.
Yeah.
Very clearly. Like, it had to have been deliberate.
My favorite Christmas movie.
Yeah, right. There were other parts where I was like, oh, this is a scene from some other... I can't place
the whole movie was like that. It was like a greatest hits.
Yeah. But that was fine.
Hits of like a shitty 80s metal band.
Greatest shit.
Well, The Matrix, obviously. The shootout in the lobby of the Umbrella Corporation with the cement coming off the walls. It's Matrix.
The bullet time going past.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, you know what, that's good. You know, God bless them.
Oh, here's one thing we forgot to mention. Like, here's one character who sort of registers, but only because I like this actor, is Chris Redfield. So the sister of the mechanical spider woman that Alice finds in Acadia, I mean the brother of that woman, is locked up in this prison. He's a cop who the prisoners locked up, and now everybody thinks he's a criminal. And so there's this, semi-mystery about whether he's actually crazy or whether he's actually a criminal.
I didn't trust him at all.
Yeah, were you on the edge of your seat?
It wasn't obvious at all that he was a good guy.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, they did that well. I thought I was like, Silence of the Lambs. That's the other thing, because he's in the Silence of the Lambs box.
Yeah.
And he is creepy, and I didn't know if he was going to be a good guy or not, so I was nervous when I let him out. So that played perfectly. Also, it played perfectly when he's like, you know what? Hell, Claire, I'm your brother, Chris. And Claire doesn't know he's her brother, but I know because I know Chris Redfield is Claire Redfield's brother because I know the games.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, yeah. And he looks, this guy's good. I'll vouch for this guy.
I mean, he winds up becoming a protagonist. And I really like Wentworth Miller, who plays him. He plays Captain Cold on The Flash and is definitely a standout on The Flash. There's a lot of very C-tier actors on The Flash, or D-tier, or below D-tier, but he just fucking brings it every time and has this like flamboyant sort of evil presence to him that I always find really enjoyable. And he didn't quite bring all of that in this movie, but I just enjoy him in general.
He is your guy if you want to do a Prison Break, because he was on the show Prison Break.
Oh, was he?
Too, so kind of get stereotyped as the Prison Break guy.
There you go.
Who do we get? We have a Prison Break sequence.
That guy.
Get me Wentworth Miller.
But yeah.
Well, fuck.
That's your movie.
Yeah,
do we have anything else to say about this shit before we go to the spoiler
Apparently
room?
not. Steven's
already reviewing it. Jesus
right
Christ, Steven, do you have anything else to say?
Oh my god, this movie is just like a gray, loud, boring mess of a video game that you can't actually play. I don't know what to say about it. You guys are talking about these characters. I don't remember who any of these people are except for Milla. I guess I couldn't keep them straight. I watched this 2 nights ago, and very little of it has remained in my memory. I can't even coherently give it a screw it. I just feel so dead inside thinking about it.
Well,
it's terrible. Yeah,
I appreciate you keeping a positive outlook, Chris.
I'll give it a Q. Is it good? No. It's not. It's probably not the worst zombie movie I've seen. I'm not a fan of the zombie movie genre in general, but if you're just using the zombies as an excuse to do some crazy action hijinks, fine. And again, because I've watched the other movies and because I'm familiar with the games, there was more for me to get invested in. If you don't watch it, you're missing nothing. But if you watch it, you might have some fun. You'd be better off watching Resident Evil Apocalypse, though. I guarantee it.
All right. Bill?
It won me over. I went in with a little trepidation, rolled my eyes a few times for the first 20 minutes or so, and then surrendered to it. Just very derivative, didn't take itself too seriously. Winning cast, even the ones that checked out on cue. I was surprised by how much I enjoyed it. Never want to see it again, but I thought it was a cut above in terms of just cheesy, derivative B-movie.
So would you view it, cue it, or screw it?
Cue it would be don't.
Queue it would be you just throw it in your Netflix queue, and
yes.
You know how you scroll through the queue sometimes, and you're like, I've been thinking about watching that for a while. It's sort of you like consign it to that status where you're not going to like view it right now, but you'll think about it for like the next 1 to 5 years of your life.
It's like Revolutionary Road. It's in the queue. Am I going to watch it?
What an incredible coincidence. That's the movie I was just going to say. It reminds me of Revolutionary Road. Yeah, I will go cue it on this one.
All right.
Patrick, would you view it, cue it, or screw it?
I will go queue as well. There was plenty of entertainment value in this. There are lots of zombie movies that I've seen that did a lot less for me than this. And, like Bill and Chris said, a lot of fun action hijinks, enough to string me along. If it's fucking midnight and you're scrolling through the queue, this might be the perfect thing to throw on and fall asleep halfway through. It's very enjoyable.
Can you imagine if Alice had been on the train to Busan? Would have been a short movie.
I was going to say very short.
All right, well, it's about time for us to head down those stairs to the spoiler room. But before we go, I have to remind you all, as always, that we have merch. We have T-shirts at everyhorrormovieonnetflix.com. Just click that merch store link and a T-shirt can be yours. Follow us on your social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that bullshit. We're out there at Amoncast, EHMONcast. And also go to your podcast provider of choice and give us a 5-star review. It helps other people find the cast and shows people that you love us, because we know you do.
Buy our merch so I can afford to get some antibiotics for my voice.
Yeah, Jesus Chris. Jesus Chris, he needs it over here. All right, we're heading down to the spoiler room. If you want to see how Resident Evil Afterlife ends on your own, go fucking watch it. Otherwise, we're going to spoil everything. We'll see you soon. All right, we are back. We are in the spoiler room, and it's time to spoil fucking everything about Resident Evil Afterlife. And I'm going to be the first to say, I don't remember what the fuck happens when they get to this fucking ship.
What? This is all I remember from this movie.
Really?
Oh my god, yeah, it's
Set
crazy.
it up.
They get to the ship. This is supposed to be like the sanctuary. They've been misled before. Like they have, they get there and this is it. This is Acadia. It's deserted.
This is
The
supposed to
plane-
be where we have the final remnant of the human race.
Yeah, and there's nothing going on. They see the plane
Right.
that Milla was flying earlier. It's crashed. They start kind of looking around, sort of alien style, like just,
Deserted
everything's
ship,
dead.
random PowerPoint of Lake Superior on the computer in the bridge.
They get to the computer and they see that like the radio message is just being played on repeat. It's automated, and then they find another computer that says there are 2,000 survivors aboard the ship. Well, where are they?
Right. Okay, I remember it all now.
They're
Yes.
down below, and immediately in that moment, like I got Aliens vibes more so than Alien,
Yeah, I
but
thought-
Aliens. I was thinking like, oh, we can see they're crawling around. Like these are not like. They're not helpful humans on this ship.
They
There's
see
something
a
more sinister
there's a
going on.
fucking they see a fucking Umbrella Corporation seal on the ship.
Well, they finally get to that, and then what kind of blew my mind is that randomly opens, and they just willy-nilly walk in. into the belly of the beast. Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
What's he gonna do?
Yeah.
And then they get locked in, of course.
I was actually thinking about that as I walked in. I was like, okay, these are all like military people, like law enforcement people. What's the protocol in that situation? Like, what? Just all three of you walk in. Nobody's like covering the other one. No one decides to stay behind. I don't know.
I would have been like,
I was thinking
around.
too much about the real life logistics
Yeah.
I
of
was gonna
that
say,
choice.
you've seen movies before.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. a couple.
I mean, I'll be fair. Like, if it were a video game and I didn't have the option to do like real world shit, like look around and see like, is there like a mechanism to like open and close this thing on the outside myself? You're like, well, I guess I got to see what's happening in here for the big boss fight. So you walk in.
Yeah,
And that's
Yeah.
exactly what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah, that's a very good way to look at it.
Yeah.
If it's you're playing a co-op game, two of you walk into the room, nothing's gonna happen unless you walk into the room
Yeah.
too.
You're like in a video game, you're like, oh fuck yes, finally.
Yeah.
In this movie, we're like, okay, we know it's bad, we don't know exactly what it is, but like, shouldn't they be a little bit more like cautious? They're not. So we're in there. Turns out that the Umbrella has a bunch of humans that they've like put in, like they've like cryogenically frozen or something, and they're storing them to eventually experiment on them or whatever.
And in this room, we find one of the biggest unexplained mysteries of this whole movie to me. You know, earlier I said, like, great exposition. I had all the information I needed. Who the fuck is Kmart, and why the fuck is she called Kmart?
I know, that bothered me. That name was mentioned throughout the entire movie.
Yeah.
But the first couple of times I was like, wait, because I watched it with subtitles, because I watched it with my non-native English-speaking boyfriend. And I was like, wait, a couple of times, with this somebody called Kmart?
But we met her in one of the flashbacks early in the movie, right? Expert.
Yes, I think
Yeah, we
she's
saw her like in the flashback getting pulled out of the helicopter into the
right.
helicopter. or
Oh,
something.
yeah.
Right, but-
it was still not enough for me to really
No.
get a sense of, like, who that person was
Right.
or why she seemed to be so beloved.
And we still
you
don't know.
No.
Except Chris.
and it's
Yeah.
great. This is the kind of like
Is Kmart worth the hype?
This is like Kmart's bankrupt now, isn't it?
So
Yeah,
she's
I think
the blue
so.
light
Yeah.
special of the movie. Oh, yes, this will be my last appearance on the pod.
Great
Well, it was
harmony,
good
guys.
having you, Bill.
This is a good example of the kind of very economical character development that you get in these movies, where it's like, you know what? Here's just a couple things about this character that you can remember, and that's it. That's all you get.
Yeah.
So in Resident Evil Extinction, Kmart is one of the survivors in Claire Redfield's convoy. They have like a Mad Max convoy going across the desert trying to stay alive.
But why Kmart?
Wait, yeah, is it like Catherine Martinez or something?
No, she introduces herself to Alice and says, "I'm Kmart," and Alice is like,
Aren't you closed?
"Why are you Kmart?" And she's like, "Because
I'm cheap and bankrupt.
I thought you guys wanted an answer. Do you want an answer or do you just want a meme?"
I do, but I mean, these jokes are too good.
Oh yeah, they don't write themselves. We got.
She says, They found me. They found me at a Kmart, so they call me Kmart. I'm Kmart." And she's like, "Well, don't you have a name?" And she's like, "I didn't like my old name."
I prefer Kmart.
Right.
Hey Richard, no, I prefer Dick.
So now she's just Kmart. But that's cute, right?
Wasn't there a Natalie Portman movie where she lives in a
Yeah.
Walmart?
Yeah.
So they defrost Kmart.
They
Bring her out of bankruptcy.
They put the microwave on Kmart and they put her in and she thaws out and she's kind of a
Non-entity.
Presence.
Yeah.
yeah.
Like I felt
Kind of like Kmart now after bankruptcy.
I felt there was a lot of hype for this character Kmart that didn't really pay off.
Was it just because we wanted to find a way to make sense of the nickname that we kept hearing?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also just the frequency with which we heard that nickname. It was like, oh, where do you think Kmart is?
Wouldn't it be funny if Kmart was played by Martha Stewart?
Yes. Wouldn't it be funny if Kmart came out of deep storage and it was just a whole Kmart store on the ship?
That'd have been great. Better movie.
All right, so anyways, they defrost all these fuckers. Wesker shows back
It's
up.
basically just a boss fight from there.
Can we talk about Wesker,
like,
and how he's like so obviously they wanted Hugo Weaving.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh,
I mean, even
100%.
down to his
He's doing Mr.
jawline,
Anderson.
Down to his jawline, like the glasses are almost
voice.
identical.
Yeah.
It's absurd.
Absolutely. Yeah. They wanted to do fucking what's his name, Agent Smith. Yeah, he shows back up even though his plane crashed. Why does he come back? I don't fucking remember. He's got T-virus.
He's got T-virus.
Blah, blah, blah.
He's half monster.
He brings out a couple zombie dogs.
Couple
which are
two-headed dogs. Which, by the way, can we close this episode with two-headed dog?
I mean, wouldn't be the first time we ended with a Rocky Erickson song, but absolutely,
Let's
I think
keep the
we
tradition
can.
going. Yeah.
We're in charge of putting the music in the episode.
We should be. All right, but yeah, so we get the final boss battle, and then he escapes on a plane, and somehow inexplicably.
Let's talk about the dogs.
Oh, okay.
The dogs were sweet.
The dogs are the best part of the movie.
I mean, okay,
in my opinion,
the CG was not great, but also this is from what?
But they're
2000?
practical first though. Like when you first see them, they look all fucked up before their heads like explode, and there's like actually like makeup on the dogs. And I was like,
no,
that's cool. Yeah.
No.
Yes.
Those are CG top to bottom.
This is a really good example of why film snobs like us need to stop fucking picking nits about whether something's CG or practical. We saw fucking dogs that look good.
This whole movie
Who gives
looks
a
like
shit?
this movie looks like fucking Milla Jovovich just sat in a chair and said her lines, and everything was CG around her for the 90 minutes. Those dogs were
Except the
real in a
dogs.
couple of the shots, and they had like makeup on when they were like when we see a wide shot, they have like shit on them. Like, oh, those dogs do not look well. And then eventually we see the CG of their head splitting open, which looks like better than most of the special effects in the movie. I enjoyed it. It gave me John Carpenter's The Thing vibes.
Sure. We'll have to review the tape, but I do not believe those were real dogs at any moment.
They tried to put like a Santa hat on a dog. It doesn't go well.
These are Hollywood dogs.
Hollywood
dogs.
Stay away from those
Them
dogs. Hollywood
hills.
dogs.
It was looking so nice. All right, fucking.
Whether or not they were practical, for one moment I believed it, which means
it was giving Steve chills. All right, let's
Give that man a Seeger.
please move on. Yeah. So she fights the dogs. She fights Wesker.
Plants a bomb on his
That's
plane.
about
well,
it.
okay.
Yeah.
let's break this down because this infuriated me.
Yeah.
He flies off,
Yeah.
right? Gets on his plane.
Yeah.
There are other planes in that hangar. There's not just the one. Am I right about this?
I think it might just be one.
All right. Well, anyway, he pushes the destruct facility button.
Yeah.
But he blows up. Then we go back, and apparently the bomb, the only bomb that can blow the entire thing up, looks like it's like a first aid kit on the pillar next to where the plane was. And Milla Jovovich had somehow managed to know that was the bomb, put it on his plane without him knowing, know that he was going to escape on the plane when we already thought he was dead because we saw him die and the door closed. And it was, I don't understand.
Alice used to work for Umbrella, and that's a standard operating procedure at Umbrella.
It said on the thing, in case of bad guy escaping, use, break glass.
Didn't it look like
bomb.
an EEG or something, though? Like, or not EEG. What am I talking about?
Yeah, the heart zapper.
That's EEG? Yeah.
EEG.
Yeah, what do they call that?
Yeah, it looked
CPAP.
exactly like one of those. No, CPAP is something you sleep with. That's a different thing.
If you have to sleep with a heart zapper, you're
No, what do they call the suitcase that you keep at like a workplace?
AED.
AED. Yes.
That's what I'm trying
That's
to
the
say.
acronym.
Yes, AED. Yeah, not CPAP.
Chris saved the day.
Anyway, it was just like totally
Acronym
bizarre,
Zaddy.
and I don't understand how that all shook down. But I'm glad that the bad Zaddy was dead in the end.
Yeah. Same.
or is
Same.
he? Or is he?
Yeah, I mean, so
Probably not. We know there
Well,
are
there
two
was
more
a
sequels.
stinger. I mean, there was a credit. Did you make it to the credits?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
Oh, sorry.
I didn't get there.
Sorry. Oh, well, that's why you feel that way about the movie.
Oh,
you didn't.
What?
didn't
You
have all
didn't
the
see
information.
You didn't see the
see the
credits
stinger
scene
with the character who
that
you
explains
wouldn't have
the
cared
whole
anything
movie?
about? No. Okay. So the plane blows
Fuck
up.
me.
The plane blows up. Alice, Chris, and Claire are left on
And Kmart.
the boat. And Kmart. And
With all
Kmart,
the
of
survivors.
course. Yeah. And Umbrella's closing in on them. There's a bunch of fucking Umbrella planes closing in on them.
Yeah.
Cut to credits, and then we see on the Umbrella plane, who's this character? Someone we're supposed to give a fuck
Oh, I
about.
saw this, but I didn't understand.
I
it.
didn't
I didn't
recognize her. I didn't recognize her. It's Jill Valentine, which was a character from Resident Evil Apocalypse, and also a character in.
Wait, so she was in one of the movies you saw, but you didn't recognize her?
Yes, because she looked very different because what they did is they put her in an outfit from the Resident Evil 5 video game instead of the outfit we were used to seeing her
Very
in
confusing.
the movies.
Layered.
And yeah, I hadn't seen her for 2 whole movies.
Well, okay, here's my question.
And she's back and she's evil and working for Umbrella now.
She's mind control.
This movie just like falls apart in the climax. All these planes descending on them, just fire. Just open fire. This is easy. Your targets are right there. Destroy them.
Well, it's discouraging because, I mean, supposedly this is the last chance of humanity on this boat. And Alice is a human now. In Resident Evil 3, she could have destroyed all these helicopters with her mind.
Well, I was just going to ask, and I thought about this earlier. If she's human now and she can do everything she can do, which is amazing, what was she like when she wasn't?
She was unfuckwithable.
I mean, she is in this movie though.
But to,
Like, to the nth
Remember
degree.
psychic
degree.
powers, dude. Remember?
Like,
I know,
all right,
but like,
all
when
right.
does she use them? I don't even know what that looks
Remember
like.
the scene where she was running across the rooftop and the hundreds of zombies are chasing her?
Yeah.
She's fighting with the shotguns.
Yeah.
Old Alice would have killed all of those zombies.
Just like force blast.
Just katanas, you name it. She would have been levitating. She would have been running up the walls like
Like she
Neo.
was in the opening sequence.
would have
When she had all her powers.
Yeah.
I feel
Would
like
have
she's
just-
not that much different after that sequence,
Yeah.
though.
would have just stunned them all with her beauty.
Yeah.
She would have just won their little zombie hearts over with her
Yeah.
gorgeous smile.
I mean, here's the thing that I'm realizing is I really checked out probably as soon as we got to the prison, which is funny because that's only about a half hour into the movie.
Well,
If
next
that.
time, don't give
And
me
there's-
shit about saying I'm getting checked out during the movie until we get to the end of the episode.
And there's not a lot of like real plot moving stuff that happens. Like we're talking about this climax and what really happens in this climax. I mean, Kmart comes back. I mean, Wesker comes back, but that's fairly
Nothing
inconsequential.
important. Nothing that relates to the plot. It's all Easter eggs for people who give a shit about the games.
And
That's
set
the
up
point.
and set up for the next one. Which
Yeah.
and I say all this and it sounds like I'm pissed, but it's not a criticism. It just adds to that comic booky flavor to me. You know,
Yeah.
it's just another like little installment. Just
and
to
I love a
send you on
good
your way.
soap opera.
Yeah.
But like
I
compared
need some context. A little bit of context.
yeah,
in
compared
the
to
soap opera,
like
though.
Saw though, like a Saw movie, you know, the thing I love about the Saw series is how it just goes down these stupid iterations of soap opera drama, film after film after film.
Yeah.
But you still, the A plot is still coherent and wraps up, and you're like, okay, that's what happened in this story in the Saw universe. Now you're on the next one. I don't understand what the hell the Wesker stuff doesn't add anything to this.
It doesn't.
It's like,
It's very. This movie is very baggy in places, but I do understand. Like at least the A plot like makes sense, and I don't feel like Wesker's even really part of the A plot. Like yes, we do see him in the beginning of the film. He does come back later, but this is all about Jovovich finds like what is supposed to be the last like stronghold for humanity in North America, and it's a lie. And now they're in trouble. The end. Wait for the sequel.
yeah.
That's it.
That's
This movie took me from A to B mostly efficiently. I would
And
say.
then back to A.
Yeah.
I
Reset.
I feel like I dropped in for an episode of a TV show that I had never seen before, and I was like, this is pretty
Like, why
entertaining.
the fuck is this an hour and a half long?
Yeah.
Is this the holiday special?
I mean, no, that wasn't my thought. But yeah, it's just I appreciate the episodic storytelling and that it's mostly self-contained, and that. You know, I mean, even though I may complain about the way this wrapped up, now I'm like, I mean, I'm probably not going to watch the next one, but I'm also sort of curious about what happens next. I mean, if Resident Evil, whatever the fifth one is called, shows up on Netflix,
I'm gonna
check it
I'm
out.
gonna make a point to
To
watch
cue
the
it.
next one. I'm in this franchise, in for a penny, in for a pound.
I mean, I gave this movie a cue it. I feel like this entire franchise is now a cue it for me. Like if it shows up on any streaming service, and I'm bored.
Right, and this is
You're
the
gonna
only
cue it.
one on Netflix right now, right?
yes, yeah, and that's.
So you're
yeah.
saying if more pop up, you're like, well...
I mean, Chris said the second one is on HBO.
Yeah.
I probably maybe might watch the second one sometime in the next like couple of years.
And you can watch them out of order. Doesn't matter.
Right.
I would watch more of these if I was slightly intoxicated with one of you guys, and that could be kind of fun.
Let's do it tonight.
No.
You mean you're not intoxicated with all of us, Steven? Who does not intoxicate you?
There's only two more.
I mean, fair point, Bill.
Other intoxicated.
I mean, I'm intoxicated by all of you.
So
just by your
Afterlife,
presence,
Afterlife is number 4 of 6. So there's only 2 left to go, and the final chapter got legitimately good reviews. Apparently,
it was.
I don't think so.
It was almost fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, I think.
almost fresh. But,
Yeah.
but everything else is at like 12-20%.
No, they actually. Some of them weren't that low.
No, I looked at it.
Some of them got like 0%.
Yeah, on Rotten Tomatoes, they got 36, 20, 24, 22, 29, and then the last one got 37.
Isn't that the Fibonacci sequence?
37 legitimately good reviews.
You know what? A 37 in horror is like a 73.
You just reverse the numbers.
Yep.
All right, well, I feel like we've about fucking milked out what we have to say about Resident Evil Afterlife.
I agree.
Right?
Yeah, I'm spent.
So, I picked this one, which means it's Steven's turn to pick our next film. Steven, please tell us what we're watching next.
Well, we're going to go from watching a movie that, except for a few people in this group, has been universally decried as a piece of shit, to a film that a lot of people consider a classic.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think we're finally going to watch The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which Chris, I know you haven't seen.
Oh, yeah, I have not seen it, actually.
It's increasingly rare that quote-unquote classics, from before 1999 show up on Netflix. So I think it's time to seize the day and see what you think of it.
I look forward to seeing if it's all it's cracked up to be.
I'm super stoked for this because, I mean, spoiler room shit. I love this movie. And you were thinking about doing it for the episode that I was not on a couple episodes ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, no. Wait until I'm there. I want to see Texas Chainsaw again. So I'm stoked.
And the fans know that I love this movie. I love Toby Hooper. I named my cat after him.
What?
We go from the L.A. meat tenderizer massacre to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's a beautiful thing. It rhymes. It makes sense. I love it. I'm here for it. I'll be back next time.
And, I know it's winter, but dress for, late July in Texas.
Put on your
Next
Daisy
step.
Dukes.
Put on your Daisy Dukes. Take your shirt and tie it up into a knot between your breasts, like they used to do in the 60s and 70s.
There's been way too much horniness on this episode. I'm starting to be
I'm
uncomfortable.
horny. What do you want me to do?
You want to see some boobs, Steven?
Get some barbecue rub it on your body.
Play some barbecue meat games.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm going to cut the horniness short here and remind everyone to do the horniest thing you can possibly do and go buy one of our t-shirts at everyhorrormovieonnetflix.com in the merch store. Follow us at AmonCast, EHMONcast on all your socials. Also a very horny thing that you can do. And horniest of all, rate us 5 stars on your podcast provider of choice. Oh, Steven's turned on just by hearing the idea of you giving us a 5-star review.
Salivating. In more ways than one.
All right, we're going to be back in 2 weeks, as we tend to be, with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And thanks for listening to us talk about Resident Evil Afterlife today. For Every Horror Movie on Netflix, I'm Patrick.
I'm Steven.
I'm Chris.
And thanks again, Bill, for joining us.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation.
We'll see you next time.
We'll bring you on next time when we do Resident Evil Retribution.
Oh, fuck.
Dreams do come true.
Guys, we got to get out of here. There's a bunch of umbrella warships converging on us.
Oh, fuck.
Bye.